Book of Equanimity, Case 20. Jizo's not knowing is most intimate. Preface to the assembly. A profound talk of entering the principle derides the three and rends the four. The broad way of Chuan runs 7 vertically and 8 horizontally. Suddenly opening your mouth to speak decisively and lifting your foot to tread firmly, you should hang up your travelling bag and bowl and break your staff. Tell me, who is such a person? The main case. Attention! Master Jizo asked Hogan, "Where have you come from?" I pilgrimage aimlessly, replied Hogan. What is the matter of your pilgrimage? Asked Jizo. I don't know, replied Hogan. Not knowing is most intimate, remarked Jizo. At that, Hogan experienced great enlightenment. Appreciatory verse. Right now, investigation replete. It's the same as before. Utterly free from minute obstacles, one comes to not know. Short's short, long's long. Cease pruning and grafting. According with high, according with low, each is even and content. A family's matter of abundance or thrift is used freely according to circumstances. Fields and lands, excellent, sportive. One's feet go where they will. The matter of 30 years' pilgrimage. A clear transgression against one's pair of eyebrows. Well, that's a very zen-y koan, and we haven't had a koan to talk through for a while. And there's a lot going on there. As always, I think it's really interesting to ask, well, what do we want from koans? Why are we studying them? Why do they exert such fascination within Zen? What are we trying to understand? What do they think they've got to offer us? And as always, are we trying to discover their original meaning, the great mystic insight offered by them? Or are we just trying to engage with them, see what meaning we can extract? Or, well, aren't they also about the frustration of meaning, the blocking of meaning? Something else, maybe becoming intimate. Most koans kind of start with a paradox, and the paradox here is this sense of, well, normally we think of intimacy, closeness, as requiring some kind of knowing. So what's it mean that in this context we're saying not knowing is most intimate? There's an awful lot of imagery going on there, and most of it we can probably pass by. The main case is quite short, quite concise. Actually, let's just hear the case again. Attention. Master Jizo asked Hogan, "Where have you come from?" I pilgrimage aimlessly. What is the matter of your pilgrimage? I don't know. Not knowing is most intimate. At that, Hogan experienced great enlightenment. A kind of knowing about not knowing. Or maybe a not knowing about not knowing. So pilgrimage is a journey. It's a journey from A to B. It's a journey with a goal, an end. In one sense, when we pilgrimage, we're going to somewhere. And that immediately asks us, where do we think we're going with our practice? Do we think we're going to somewhere? A great enlightenment, a stunning realization? What's our practice for? Keep coming back to this question over and over again, and probably most of the answers we can give are ridiculous or inadequate, but we keep coming back to this question. Why practice? Why are we here? Why listen to somebody rambling about a koan story? So I just pick up on a few of these images that were offered. I like the image of the staff. The staff, pace by pace, keeps pace with you. You go on. It's your support in the journey. And actually the pilgrim's staff is almost the emblem of the pilgrimage itself. I set out with my staff, hopefully. And the bag? Well, the bag contains all my possessions. They're few, but necessary. And in a sense, the bag is my history, my past, myself, what I carry with me. The things I'm most familiar with, in one sense, the things I know. Break your staff. Hang up your travelling bag. Why? So that you can open your mouth, so that you can take a confident step. One step. Well, if we break our fantasies about the future, where we're going, if we break those fantasies, and notice that we break the stuff, we don't break the bag, we don't throw it away or destroy it, we hang it up. It's there. We're changing our relationship to it. Hang up your past, break your fantasies about the future. Become intimate with the present. And it's in that space that we can begin to take a confident step. A step into not knowing. Or both knowing and not knowing where we're going. Let's take an image from calligraphy, maybe. Chinese, Japanese calligraphy or painting, which is all about the gesture. It may look very controlled, it may look wild, but it's about a gesture. It's not geometrical, it's not defined, it's an act. And to make that act, to make that gesture, I need confidence, but I also need to let go. I need to let go of everything I know, because if I'm thinking about what I know, if I'm thinking about making the shape in that sense, it will be dead. It will be controlled in the wrong way. It will have no possibility. It will have no openness. It'll have no creativity. That's the hair's breadth between alive and dead. And so I think this image of the koan is asking us to engage with that. I put down, I hang up my past, and I do. I act. I take a confident step. Or I open my mouth. Speak, say a word of Zen. So this is a not knowing. It's also knowing in a sense. What do we normally mean by knowing? What do we normally want of knowing? We tend to use our knowledge as control, or as the attempt to control, as mastery. If I know something, I have it down. I can identify it. Two words which I tend to use over and over again in this context are safety and goodness. I want to be safe. If I'm in control, then I'm safe. Nothing can come at me. Nothing can catch me off guard. And in a moral sense, and this begins with our parents, we want to be good. Being good is safe. Being good is recognised. Being good is receiving. Being good is... So being good and being safe. Control and mastery. The problem here is that both of these things require a separation out from the world, a separation into subject and object, a me which knows and a thing which is known, a circumstance, an event. There's another nice koan, also involving Hogan, the student who we were hearing about just now. Long after his great enlightenment, he has his own place, his own monastery. This is from the Stone Mind collection. Hogan lived alone in a small temple in the country. One day, 4 travelling monks appeared and asked if they might make a fire in his yard to warm themselves. It's winter. And they're pilgrims, and they're doing the tour of the teachers, the monasteries, seeing who'll spark something, who looks like it might be worth staying and listening to. While they were building the fire, Hogan heard them arguing about subjectivity and objectivity. He joined them and said, "There is a big stone. Do you consider it inside your mind or outside?" One of the monks replied confidently, "From the Buddhist view, everything is an objectification of mind, so I would say that the stone is inside my mind." "Your head must feel very heavy," said Hogan, "if you're carrying around a stone like that in your mind." I know the Buddhist version. I mean, for the mind-only school, that's a good response. He knows his stuff. And yet he doesn't know, because outflanked so effortlessly. Blat. Maybe that monk now goes away and has a realization. Maybe not. You can't answer in those terms. You can't answer out of your knowledge, because that's subject and object. Koans point towards, and our practice points towards, a kind of knowing which is embodied, which is experienced. In our normal lives, we are living lives of separation. We're living lives, as my favourite translation of the Heart Sutra says, hemmed in by the walls of our mind. Our habits, our reactions, our assumptions, our preconceptions. Some of them we may call prejudice. Some of them are just the way we do things. Some of the way assumptions about what's natural in the world. And all of these in their way are knowledge. They're ways of dividing up the world, drawing lines between what we do and what we don't do, between our attitude to this and our attitude to that. And so we're asked to approach the world in terms of not knowing. Now let's be quite clear. This kind of not knowing, well, let's go back to Dogen's famous advice. Think, not thinking. The one thing which thinking, not thinking isn't is not thinking. As in, we don't just think that if we don't think, then we're fine. You know, we're suddenly in the immediacy of the reality of the actual world. Because actually when we don't think, we're just in habit. We're just running along our grooves in the walls of the mind. What we need to do is find ways to become more aware, to see the world, to encounter the world, to experience the world beyond the walls of our mind, to come at, as one of the precepts advises us, to meet everyone with a sense of openness and possibility. Fresh. Meet everything in the world as if meeting a stranger. In one sense, obviously. Can we do that? To do that, we have to be aware of our thinking as thinking. Aware that our thinking, like everything in the world, like me, like you, like this computer, is empty. It has no separate nature. And in fact, one of the alternative translations of emptiness, which actually, let's think about here. Kaz Tanahashi's favourite translation of emptiness is boundlessness. And let's think about that in relation to the walls of our mind. These walls, we're quite determined they're there. We're quite determined we're going to walk along between them. But in actual fact, they have no fundamental existence. They're real enough because we treat them as real. We treat each other as real, as finite, as limited. We treat each other as known. Can we come to each other as, in a sense, unknown? Not imagining that we've managed to track back to some kind of primal reality, but just with that sense of freshness and questioning. Why are you on this pilgrimage? I've been here, I've been there, I've met this master, I've met that master. I don't know, it's just what I do. Not knowing can be most intimate. So in a sense, this not knowing is the precondition of meeting with openness and possibility. It's not simply the knowledge of emptiness, the knowledge that that emptiness itself is emptiness, but the knowledge that in everything we do, in everything we encounter in life. We're meeting emptiness not as a thing, not as something separate, beyond, behind, above, but just as life as it is. What is it, finally, that we're hoping our safety and we're hoping our goodness might actually save us from? What do we want our knowledge to do? I think many different traditions point us towards the evasion of our lack of control, of our very human vulnerability, that all our efforts in this sense are relative, and finally futile. The end point of all of this is simply death. My death, your death, the death of my loved ones, the eventual death, hopefully in many, many years' time, of my children, my grandchildren, if I have them. My knowledge, my attempts at safety, my attempts at goodness won't save us from this, any of us. This much is certain. And yet, not knowing when I pick up the brush to make the mark, not knowing when I meet you face to face. This is something, this is much, this is life, this is possibility. This is most intimate.